Hello everybody, welcome back. It is Leesh. Yeah, I'm back in this same background. I kind of like this background, and we have the little globe in the background because I thought that was pretty necessary for my travel videos. So yeah, today I'm doing a how to stay safe while solo traveling. It's towards females, but if you're a male you can still watch this video because you will probably still get some tips. Well, hopefully you will still find this video. So first of all, things aren't always what they seem. In the news, all you hear about is bad news about backpackers, backpackers going missing, that kind of thing. You always just hear about it in the news, like all of the bad things. And the global news only really tends to focus on negative aspects, what's going on in other countries. They never really show like the positives of people traveling solo. They always just show the negatives. Negative actions can make you be anxious to go anywhere by yourself, but I'm here to tell you that that is not always the case, and don't always believe everything you read in the media. What the media doesn't tell you is about the hundreds of thousands of people that go backpacking and solo travel, and they always get home safely and they always have such an amazing trip. In reality, things only go wrong if you are extremely stupid or if you're extremely unlucky. There's going to be some element of risk when you go travelling, but there just is in life anyway. I wouldn't say it's any different of a risk than walking to the shop. It's the same amount of risk, I would say. And all I'm going to say is just look out for yourself, look after yourself as much as you can to lower the risk of things going wrong. It's out the way, let's get into my tips. The first thing I'm going to say is just make sure you have travel insurance. This is one of the most important things to make sure of. I would recommend World Nomads for travel insurance because you can change the insurance as it goes. Like if you extend your trip, you can extend the insurance. However, if you're just going on a trip and you know the destination, like you've got a return flight, you can just go compare the market, and then pick on the cheapest one that is best suited to you. The next thing I recommend is before you go, make sure you are healthy, make sure you get like a health check to make sure you can go. Also keep an eye out for any vaccinations you might need before you go, especially if you're going to like any country in Africa. I expect you to be vaccinated before you enter. Also check entry requirements because, with the whole state of the world at the minute, you need to check entry requirements that you can get in without quarantining or returning without quarantining. So another tip is to always carry a charged mobile phone. That way, if you get into trouble, your phone's always on charged, and make sure it is either fully uncharged or always uncharged. Make sure that your phone is unlocked when you go, because that way you can put in a SIM card that for that country. I recommend doing this for longer trips. Make sure it's obviously charged up to make emergency phone calls, and as well for Google offline maps. So yeah, Google offline maps is a good thing because you don't have to use data to use the maps, and it's good to check like when you need to get off the bus, like at certain bus stops. It's also good for when you're in taxis to see if you're going the right way, they're taking you to the right destination, or they're not just riding around and around in circles trying to scam you out of more money. So yes, Google offline maps is a good solution. The next one is to always act confident. Dodgy people always target the vulnerable, so if you look confident when you're traveling, then you won't have any problems at all. Just make sure you look like you blend in with the people there. Dodgy people normally target those people the ones that look lost, and the ones that locals believe to be more vulnerable, and the ones that don't look like they know what they're doing. So if you're going traveling, make sure you at least pretend you look like you know what you're doing. Another one I would say for safety is to stay in a hostel, because obviously you meet everybody else that's also in a hostel, and the likelihood of anything going wrong in a hostel is very slim. So yeah, this way you meet people and you may decide to go travelling with them, and you will never be alone in a hostel. Another one I'd say to link onto hostels is to always carry a padlock to lock up your stuff when you're in a hostel, and just always check that that hostel has either lockers or somewhere that you can put your bag, because generally the hostels where they don't have lockers are the bad hostels because you've got nowhere to store your stuff. So just make sure like the hostel has lockers or somewhere to put your stuff. Also have a way to conceal your valuables, so while you're out and about, so have things like a bum bag with a zip on it. I just recommend have something with a zip on it, because if you have an open bag and everyone can see what stuff you've got in your bag, you know, you're going to be more of a target. So I would just recommend that you try and conceal your valuables as much as possible. The next one, I kind of think this is pretty self-explanatory, is just don't head off the beaten track. This is normally where all of the media stories come from, you know, all of the negative press about travelling solo and backpackers, is people that head off on the beaten track. If you want to go and head off a beaten track, you can always, you know, sign up to a tour that may go down that route, or you can always ask somebody in your hostel if they want to go on a trip with you, and most likelihood is people will say yes. If you are going to go in the daytime, go when it's light out, because you know you're seen. Like if anything happens, you know, you're more likely to be seen by somebody. Never ever ever go in the night time off the beaten track, because regardless of who you're with, you know, you're more likely to be a target. The next one is no limits. So by this I mean, if you're going out to a bar or a club, don't get too drunk to the point where you can't look after yourself. Yeah, just don't become a liability. The friends you meet while you're out there are not obliged to take care of you. You've only just met them, you know, you wouldn't like it if you had to take care of somebody else. So they are not obliged to look after you. So if you get too drunk into a state where you become a liability to somebody, they might not even look after you. They might just leave you where you are. So just always make sure that you do not get yourself in a state where, you know, you become a liability. I'm not saying don't drink, just know your limits and take responsibility for yourself. So next thing I'd say is dress appropriately. So yeah, like people who go travelling, I guess, in Australia have completely different to people who travel in Dubai. Just know that there's obviously a difference there, and make sure you dress appropriately. If you're walking down the streets in Dubai, it's probably not the best thing to like have everything out on show, whereas in Australia that's perfectly fine. So yeah, just always dress appropriately and be respectful country you are going to, and just use your common sense to be respectful. You know, if you see people walking around and are all covering up, just be respectful and cover up as well. So next one is don't tell people you are travelling solo unless it's fellow backpackers. So like people in your hostel, that's fine to tell you're travelling solo, but like random people off like the street, do not tell them you are solo. If a random scary man comes up to you and asks if you have a boyfriend or anything like that, always answer with yes, and just say, oh, they're around the corner, or oh, they're just up there getting some food or something. Just make up some excuse. Do not let people believe you are by yourself, because you are more of a target. Anybody that you are solo, unless obviously they're in your hostel, that's perfectly fine, because they're also travelling solo most likely. The next one is always tell somebody where you are at all times. So that means you text your mum to tell them where you are on that day, where you're going, and yeah, what time, you know, you're going to message her again. You can even tell your roommate. So if you've got other people in the hostel that you are friends with, that you've made friends with in the room, tell them where you're going and tell them what time like you're planning to be back. You can either tell reception, or you can ask reception of like any advice for the place you're going. So at least if you already know everything about where you're going, they know where you are. So yeah, just always tell somebody where you are, so then if anything bad happens, you know, somebody's always got your back. Somebody always knows where you are. And the more people you tell, the more people are going to be looking out for you. And the more people will be wondering where you are if you don't come back, and they know where you are. So yeah, that's just one thing I recommend, is just to always tell somebody where you are. Thing I recommend is memorise the emergency phone number of that country. So yeah, it's only normally like 3 or 4 numbers, so always just remember what the emergency number is. So if you need to get in contact with an emergency with somebody, then you can. Also, set up an emergency contact on your phone so that you can access the emergency contact without having to unlock your phone. So if you ever get yourself in a situation where you want to look like you're not on your phone, you can get in touch with somebody on emergency contact, or somebody, if you're lost or injured, can get in touch for you on that emergency contact. So yeah, always have an emergency contact set up. The next one is to be savvy. If you are unsure of a country that you're planning on going to, just don't go, just go somewhere else. You're probably not ready to go to that country, or you probably haven't done enough research yet. So yeah, it's not, it's not a bad thing to change your plans. If you don't feel comfortable going to that country, you can always just go somewhere else. So be savvy and use your common sense. You want to go to that country anyway, you can always book yourself on a group tour. That way you are never going to be alone, and you've got somebody looking after you. Like the tour guide is going to be the one that's arranging where you sleep, what you eat, things like that. So you've always got somebody looking out for you. So yeah, I would recommend group tours. Last thing I'm going to say is it's easy to stay safe if you are sensible. So just put that to mind. If you are sensible when you're traveling, you are going to be safe. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more travel content, then please subscribe. I have plenty more travel content coming. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.